All right, well, thank you very much for the introduction, Natasha. Once again, my name is Anthony Hanley. I'm a professor in the Department of Nutritional Sciences, and I'm joined today by Errin Barker, who is our graduate administrator. And we're going to spend the next few minutes telling you about our graduate programs. And the plan is to leave lots of time for questions and discussion. Based on the last session, it looks like there are a lot of questions that come in, and we're certainly happy to answer those questions for you. So here's the outline of the talk. Today, we'll tell you a little bit about what we do in the department, some reasons that you may want to consider graduate school, what degrees we offer, the requirements within those degrees, how the application and admissions process works, and what you might want to know about funding and scholarships. And then again, we'll leave lots of time for questions and answers, and I'm watching the time very carefully. So we are a nutrition department that's situated within the Faculty of Medicine. And this is actually quite unusual. Many nutrition departments across Canada and the US and elsewhere are in faculties of agriculture and have more of a food science, food chemistry sort of a focus. Because we're in medicine, we have a very, very close connection to the link between nutrition and health and disease. And so the focus of our research programs, our courses, is really oriented towards that more than say an agricultural focus, although some of our courses do touch on those elements. We're really interested in using nutrition, education, and leadership as a key driver for enhancing health and wellness. We have 46 faculty members, including 4 core faculty and 29 status-only professors who work in settings off campus. Largely, these are hospital settings, and at the current time, most of our cross appointees are at Sick Kids Hospital and St. Michael's Hospital. Although we have had in the past people working out of TGH as well as Baycrest and other settings. So we really have a very successful track record in training graduate students who work in a range of fields after graduation, and we'll tell you a little bit about that after the fact. Our people have, our students have really received many highly competitive graduate awards over the years. For a small department, we tend to punch above our weight in that regard. So one of the things that you should know about nutritional sciences is the range of inquiry, scientifically speaking, is probably as broad or broader than any other department in the Faculty of Medicine. And by that, I mean we have people who are working in basic science, working in animal models and cell lines, all the way across the spectrum to health policy research. And in between that, you have epidemiological research, clinical trials. And so really our professors really touch on the full spectrum of scientific methodology and scientific inquiry. This is also nice in that it allows for really a range of multidisciplinary projects and cross-pollination across these disciplines. In terms of substantive areas, again, we've got a very wide range of inquiry. There's a very strong focus in our department in what is now referred to as DOHAD, or the developmental origins of health and disease. Here on this slide, it's framed as healthy human development and aging. And so we've got a lot of work in fetal programming, early life childhood nutrition, and then increasingly with our colleagues at Sick Kids, there's a very large and active group working on international child nutrition, malnutrition, micronutrient supplementation, etc. We have a strong omics focus as well, genomics, metabolomics, again, across a range of disciplines from the basic to the population level, as well as clinical trials. In terms of health outcomes, Our group focuses on cardiometabolic disease, cancer, bone health, gut health, really a range of outcomes, including mental health and elder health. And again, we've got a lot of work in the policy realm as well. So again, you can see a huge range of scientific disciplines as well as cognate areas of focus. So some of you on the call today might be wondering, you know, graduate school, not really too sure. Is it a good fit for me? Well, let me try to sort of sell you on why it might be a good fit. The graduate school at the University of Toronto, I guess in general, and certainly this is the case for us in nutritional sciences, you're working on the front lines of research. You're not going to go down to the CAF and you know, survey your classmates about what they had for lunch. And I'm not trying to make light of anybody's research elsewhere, but we do internationally and nationally funded, peer-reviewed, cutting-edge research in nutrition that gets published in top-level international journals. This is, again, real research, and you'll be on the front lines of that, working with internationally recognized people. You'll get to work with the latest techniques and equipment and methodologies, and importantly, you're going to publish. Just about everybody that comes out of our program has at least one publication, usually more, as a first author. These are important contributions to the scientific literature. They live forever in the public realm, and you're doing your part to advance the knowledge around nutrition and health. There are career opportunities. Our graduates work in a wide range of places and settings after they graduate: academia, government, the private sector. Many of our students go on to professional degrees. And I'm not sure if Natasha has touched on this today in her introductory comments, but you should check out this document called 10,000 PhDs. This is a little exercise that the University of Toronto did a few years ago that basically asked the question, okay, where do people end up after they get a PhD from the University of Toronto? The results are very surprising, very encouraging. You know, doing graduate work does good things for you in terms of launching a career. There's also funding. When I was a graduate student, you sort of fended for yourself, but now within the Faculty of Medicine basic science units, there is a guaranteed support package that you get if you're taken on by a professor in their group. And we'll talk about that in a few moments. If you're interested at all in going to graduate school, and I assume today I'm talking mostly to undergraduate students, and that's great. Try to get involved in research. There's a huge range of opportunities that you can be involved in as an undergraduate student. In our department, we've got third and fourth year, full year courses in independent research. There are also a huge range of summer programs on campus at the U of T. The Hospital Research Institutes also have excellent summer research programs. Banning and Best Diabetes Center here at the University of Toronto. So there's a range of things you can get involved in. This does a couple of things. It gives you a taste of whether research is right for you or not. It also gets you in touch with people who are going to be part of your network. They're going to write letters of reference for you, and they're going to be part of your growing network as you go forward in your career. So what are the differences between undergrad and grad school? This is a highly simplified and stylized slide, but I mean, it's sometimes important to consider what that looks like. As an undergraduate student, your life is highly structured, well-defined, and frequent small to medium-sized deliverables. As a graduate student, particularly in a research-focused program, there are fewer courses. I'll talk about that in a second. Fewer but bigger deliverables. You're going to meet with your PI and your lab group. There'll be defenses and presentations, but it won't be nearly as granular as when you were an undergrad. Your schedule as an undergrad is tightly scheduled, dense calendar, courses, labs, essays, hand-ins, etc., exam dates. Schedule, by contrast, is much looser as a graduate student. In undergrad, somebody else is driving the bus. In graduate school, you're driving the bus largely. You have a supervisor, you've got a framework and expectations, but typically you're given a project, to put up on your shoulders and run with it. And so you're in control to a large degree, and being a self-starter and being motivated is very important. As an undergrad, especially early on, you learn from textbooks. As a graduate student, you're accessing the primary scientific literature. What do we look for? I'm going to talk a little bit about the details of this a little bit later in a couple of minutes. But generally speaking, you've got to be a strong student to get into graduate school. In our department, we like to see some background in nutrition. You don't have to have been a nutritional sciences major, but you can't really come in with a background in English literature or history, and there's nothing wrong with those disciplines, but you're going to be getting into a scientific project very quickly, so you need to have some fundamental knowledge about the scientific constructs around nutrition. It's helpful, but not essential if you've got some research experience, and this is what I was talking about earlier. And you got to have an interest in science and an interest in discovery. And as we've seen in the world around us in the last few months, not everybody has that. And if you don't believe in the importance of science, graduate school probably isn't right for you. And that's okay. In terms of personal traits, you should be motivated, you should be resilient. Research is messy. It doesn't always go smoothly. That's just the way it is. And you need to be resilient to those constructs. You should be independent, you should be a self-starter, and being a team player is important. We always work in teams. There are very few lone wolves in this business these days. All right, so in our graduate unit, we have 2 research-focused degrees. We've got an MSc, which is roughly 2 years in duration, and a PhD, which is roughly 4 years in duration. We don't currently have direct entry into the PhD, although you can, as an MSc student, reclassify if it looks like you're on a stratospheric trajectory in terms of your research capacity. Some people get confused about the MPH in community nutrition. This is a professional MPH degree that's offered through the Dahlonega School of Public Health. So we do not administer that program, although many of our faculty teach in that program. So what do the programs look like? Again, the focus is research. We want you to get started early and often and intensively on your research program, so the courses are light. As an MSc student, you take 2 courses in addition to a graduate seminar that we have every week, which you'll present at. You've got a few milestone presentations, including the seminars, and then there's a thesis and a defense. As a PhD student, we ask for 4 courses, 2 of which need to be completed in the first year, 4 by the end of your 3rd year. There's a qualifying exam, which is basically a protocol defense. We've got a requirement for 4 department seminars, 1 per year, and then you do your dissertation, departmental defense, and final oral exam. What is the process like in terms of admissions? Again, I should have mentioned in my slides, which you'll be able to access because this is a recorded session, and all the links I'm providing in my slides are available on our website. So there's nothing magical about any of these. The application process is online through the SGS portal. Please pay attention to deadlines. They are largely inflexible and out of our control. The next set of deadlines are coming up in January. January 15th, 2021 is the deadline to submit the online application. And then you've got a few weeks beyond that to submit your supporting documentation. We've also got a deadline in the spring, although if you're really keen on grad school, I would look at this first deadline because that's when we receive most of our applications, and a lot of the matching takes place in the interim after that set of deadlines. We also have another deadline in the fall. I haven't posted that here because for this year that's passed. These are the next 2, and again, please concentrate on those if you're interested in applying to grad school. You can reach out to us individually if you've got any questions about that. What do you need for your application? Transcripts. If you're a U of T student, you can download those from Rosie. If you're from outside the U of T, we'll accept initially unofficial transcripts, but we will chase you down for official transcripts once you're admitted. Letters of reference. The previous presenter from pharmacology, I thought, did an excellent job in talking about what's a good letter of reference. You've got a lot of people in your life who love you and will write beautiful letters of reference, but some of those are not helpful for our purposes. We want to hear from people who have seen you in action in terms of research, academics, and these kinds of related activities, because that relates to what you're going to be doing in your graduate program. We need, professors, PIs, summer research program supervisors. Request those letters early, because people are busy, they get distracted. Academics are notoriously scatterbrained and we forget. And so you need to, if someone said yes, harass them, remind them until they get that letter in. And we need an institutional email for those submissions. There's a statement of intent or a short research proposal that's required. If you can write this as a proposal, that's a little bit better, but it doesn't have to be that if you haven't been involved in research. And then we look for a CV as well. Again, if you've got any research experience or outputs, put that in the CV, loud and clear, properly cited. Those are very, very important milestones for somebody at an early stage of their career. What happens to my application? All right, so there's basically, I characterize this as a 3-level or 3 hoops that you have to jump through. The first is getting past the School of Graduate Studies requirement, which requires a 4-year degree and a mid-B average. Then your file comes to my committee where Errin and I and our colleagues look at it. We've got a slightly higher cutoff for marks, A- in the past 2 years of full-time study. Again, we're a very, very competitive program and we get many more applications than we can take, so we look for the best students. We like to see some nutrition background and relevant courses in the health and basic sciences. And it's nice if you've got research experience, although that's not required. And then once you get through those 2 steps, the final step is acceptance by a supervisor. And this is really important, and really it's the least well understood of the steps. There's 2 reasons why you need to make a connection with the supervisor for final acceptance and admission to our program. You need to have a suitability in terms of your background, your match with the professor in terms of research areas and chemistry. But most importantly, because we have a guaranteed base funding package, that money's got to come from somewhere. And typically it's from the professor's research grants. And we would all love to take more students than we can. And really the limitation is funding. That fluctuates even within any given year. Grants come in, grants expire. And so it's really hard to know who has money at any one time to take on new students. The trick is to get in there, and once you've passed this stage 2, reach out, see who's got a position available, and then you can go from there. A little bit about our guaranteed funding and other financial support. Again, if you're taken up by a professor, a PI, a supervisor, there's a guaranteed base funding package that you receive. That gets topped up if you're competitive for external awards. We do encourage students to apply for those even beyond the base funding package. It brings a lot of good things, experience, extra muscle on your CV in terms of your competitiveness for these external awards. Other issues, if you don't get taken up right away by a supervisor, you can defer for up to 1 year. And you can see what our acceptance numbers are there. Again, this varies from year to year, depending on who's got funds, where people are in terms of their gestation period for students in their group, and this kind of thing. Contact information for Errin and myself, and now we can take some questions. I'll leave that up for all of you. There's about 12 minutes for questions, or maybe a little bit less.
So if everyone can put your questions in the chat box, that'd be great.
So while we wait for questions, Errin, do you want to add anything that I may have missed?
I think you really touched on quite a lot. One thing I was going to mention, and I sort of took this from the previous presentation, but just sort of talking about the numbers that we have in our graduate program. So the current numbers we do have right now are about 71 graduate students. And so it's almost an even split. There's about 34 MSc students and 37 PhD students right now. So just some data for individuals to sort of understand how many students we currently have with us right now.
Sounds good. I'm just looking at the chat box here and I'm trying to see where, okay. Okay, so I'll just try to start here with Jessica's question. It was said we don't need research, but it's recommended. But how do we get appropriate references if they're not through research? And so in that case, I would approach professors whose courses you've taken. That would be the obvious next place to go, because these professors can talk about how you've performed in the course. Often, particularly in the senior years, there are deliverables and projects that will give them a little bit more granularity to comment on your capacity for research. Okay, how many years of research experience is preferable? All right, listen, anything, and I'm serious about that. If you can get involved in research in any capacity, even if it's not in nutrition, it's a valuable experience. First of all, it gives you a sense. It's like when your parents took you for ballet or for baseball or for swimming lessons. You probably got a sense right away of whether that was something that you liked or not. It gives you a taste, it gives you a sense of what the research process is like. And again, every lab, every setting is different, but you will get some insight into the process that's very important in your decision-making process. So really any experience you can get is very important. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here. Can we have a supervisor that isn't within the department? And so the short answer is no, in that the way that our policies work is you have to have somebody who at least has a cross appointment or an associate appointment to our department to supervise students within the department. And so again, if you remember the slide we showed earlier, there are lots and lots of people that are either primarily appointed or cross-appointed. And so, often you can find somebody who's doing something that's of interest to what you're pursuing. Again, if there's some nuanced issues there you want to discuss with us, please do reach out. If I do not have any research experience, but I'm interested in nutritional epidemiology, what do you recommend I do or take to qualify or find a supervisor for that? And so again, do whatever you can to get some relevant course background as well as any sort of research experience. I mean, if you're interested in nutritional epidemiology, it would be great if you could get some research experience that relates to that. But again, it doesn't have to be. Professors look for people who have gotten their hands dirty in trying to understand what the process is like. So again, I wouldn't worry too much about the fine details of what it is you've done research in, but get as close as you can, and then at the end of the day, any research experience will be valuable to you. And again, read in the area, because the way you write that statement of intent and the discussions you have with potential supervisors, if you take a literature-based approach to that based on your reading, that would be fantastic. Okay, Jessica is asking, what courses are needed for this program? I know it can't be English, et cetera, but would biology be okay? So the short answer is yes. We like to see at least a course or two in nutrition, because very quickly you're going to be jumping into a nutrition focused program of some sort. But we do take people who have biochemistry or zoology or physiology, because those are fields that sort of touch on the way we approach nutrition. So, again, if you're in third year and you've got this interest in nutrition and you don't have any courses, jump into a course for your fourth year. So you're sending a signal to our committee that, nutrition is something that is a bona fide interest for you. With references,
Dr. Hanley?
Yes.
So sorry to interrupt. I
No
just
problem.
received a private question, so I just wanted to sort of announce it publicly so we can answer it for this individual.
Yeah.
So it's just saying, if I graduate this June, would I be able to take a summer research opportunity?
So I'm trying to remember now whether the eligibility ends for people once they're graduated, and so what I would recommend is to take a look at our website, and the eligibility for those research courses, at least within our department, are specified there. And again, these will be different across different summer research projects. So do your digging and sort of see what is involved in terms of the eligibility for these different summer research programs across the hospital research institutes, different departments, Banning and Best Diabetes Center. And again, you know, if you're outside that eligibility window, there are other ways to approach this as well, by reaching out to professors and seeing, you know, what might be available. There's a question from Samantha. Would references from volunteering in hospital settings be accepted? So the short answer is yes. I mean, again, that's not ideal. I think that's a great entry on your CV, but you know, ideally, if you can put yourself in the position of the admissions committee, we're assessing whether, you know, in addition to transcripts, we're assessing whether somebody has the aptitude and the potential to dive into a research project that you're going to have to put on your back and carry forward. And so, you know, if you were volunteering, you know, in patient admissions, that might not be so relevant, but if you were volunteering in a lab, that's probably worth pursuing. Hi, Natasha, did you want us to wrap it up?
There is no other questions. Any last minute questions? Then we'll stop the session.
There's one more from Vivian. I'll just answer that quickly and then we'll stop.
Sure.
If I don't have research experience, but have taken courses with lab components with chemistry. So again, the short answer there is yes, Vivian. And again, when you write your statement of intent, you're going to want to highlight those as the relevant background experience. It is better, you know, if possible, for you to try to get into a lab setting or some kind of a quote unquote real research experience where you're sort of seeing the process. When we're in undergrad, a lot of the lab assignments are controlled. We already know the answer. The difference in research is we don't know the answer yet. And sort of seeing how that plays out and the way that gets navigated, quote unquote, in the real world can be quite valuable. So if at all possible, try to get those experiences. If you don't have it, it's not a deal breaker at all. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Errin and Natasha. Our contact information is there. Please reach out to us if you have any questions that we haven't been able to cover today, or if there's anything that's not been clear.